The distant planet Vampa trembled under the weight of an oppressive energy, its barren wastelands scarred by decades of battle. A lone Saiyan, Broly, stood amidst the wreckage of yet another failed training session, his muscles aching but his spirit unbroken. His green eyes burned with an untamed fury, his power barely contained beneath the surface. Nearby, his father Paragus monitored him with a mix of pride and caution, knowing that Broly's potential was both their greatest weapon and their greatest risk. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Frieza's sinister laughter echoed through the halls of his warship. His plan to manipulate the Scions had backfired spectacularly. Broly, the weapon he sought to control, had slipped from his grasp. Now, the tyrant seethed with rage, his crimson eyes narrowing as he plotted his next move. "If I can't have Broly, then no one will," he hissed, his tail flicking in agitation. On Earth, Goku and Vegeta trained relentlessly in the hyperbolic time chamber, pushing their limits in preparation for the inevitable confrontation with Frieza. Goku wiped sweat from his brow, his gi clinging to his body as he powered down from Super Saiyan Blue. "We gotta be ready for anything," he muttered, clenching his fists. Vegeta scoffed, crossing his arms. "Frieza's a fool if he thinks he can challenge us again." But deep down, both knew something darker was coming. Their suspicions were confirmed when a distress signal crackled through Bulma's communicator, a panic transmission from Chi-Lai and Limo, Broly's unlikely allies. "Frieza's coming for Broly. The signal cut off abruptly, leaving an eerie silence. Goku's eyes hardened. "We gotta move. Now." The scene shifted to Vampa, where Frieza's forces descended like a swarm of locusts. Broly roared as energy blasts rained down around him, his body instinctively reacting. With a swift motion, he caught a plasma beam midair and crushed it in his fist, the explosion barely singeing his skin. Paragus barked orders, but Broly was already moving, his muscles swelling as his power surged. A squad of Frieza's elite soldiers lunged forward, their attacks precise and coordinated. Broly dodged a razor-edged energy disc, then countered with a devastating punch that sent one soldier flying through 3 rock formations. Another soldier unleashed a barrage of ki blasts, but Broly crossed his arms, tanking the hits before retaliating with a sudden eruption of green energy. The ground split beneath him as he launched forward, his fist connecting with the soldier's gut hard enough to send him spiraling into orbit. Frieza watched from above, his smirk fading. TCH. Annoyingly resilient. He raised a single finger, charging a death beam aimed directly at Broly's heart. But before he could fire, a blue streak intercepted the attack. Goku, his aura flaring as he blocked the blast with a ki barrier. "Long time no see, Frieza," he grinned. Vegeta landed beside him, his scowl deepening. "You never learn, do you?" Frieza's lip curled. "Oh, but I do. And this time, I won't underestimate you." With a flick of his wrist, he signaled his retreat, his soldiers vanishing in flashes of light. Broly panted heavily, his body trembling from exertion. Goku turned to him, offering a hand. "You okay?" Broly hesitated, his instincts warring with confusion. Chi-Lai and Limo rushed to his side, their faces etched with relief. "He's not your enemy," Chi-Lai insisted. Goku nodded. "We've got a common problem. Frieza won't stop until he's destroyed everything." Broly's fists clenched, his rage simmering, but for the first time, it wasn't directed at them. The stage was set. Frieza's schemes had unraveled, Broly's allegiance hung in the balance, and Goku and Vegeta stood at the brink of a battle that could reshape the universe. The real fight was just beginning. The air crackled with tension as Frieza's warships descended upon the barren wasteland, their shadows stretching like claws over the fractured earth. Goku and Vegeta stood side by side, their muscles coiled, eyes locked onto the tyrant's smug grin. "You really think you can stop me this time, monkeys?" Frieza sneered, his tail flicking lazily. Before either Saiyan could retort, the ground trembled violently, a deafening roar split the sky as Broly emerged from a plume of dust, his emerald aura burning wilder than ever. But something was different, his eyes, once clouded with rage, now flickered with something resembling clarity. "Kakarot," he growled, voice rough but focused. Frieza lied. "He used me." Vegeta scoffed. "Took you long enough to figure that out." Goku, however, grinned. "Then let's fix it together." Frieza's smirk faltered as Broly turned toward him, fists clenched. "You'll pay for what you did to my father," Broly snarled. The tyrant's composure shattered. "Fine. If you won't obey, you'll all die here." He snapped his fingers, and a swarm of cybernetically enhanced soldiers, remnants of the Frieza force's darkest experiments, flooded the battlefield. Their eyes glowed crimson, bodies reinforced with twisted technology. The fight erupted instantly. Goku blurred forward, trading blows with a hulking cyborg, its metallic limbs whirring as it countered his strikes. He flipped midair, driving a knee into its chest, but the machine barely staggered. "These guys don't feel pain," he called out. Vegeta, already in his Ultra Ego form, smirked. "Then we'll just have to dismantle them." He unleashed a barrage of ki blasts, but the cyborgs adapted, their shields absorbing the energy. One lunged at him, claws extended, only for Broly to intercept, grabbing its arm and hurling it into a rock formation. The impact triggered an explosion, debris raining down. Amid the chaos, Frieza hovered above, charging a death beam aimed at Broly's back. Goku sensed it, instant transmission. He vanished, reappearing just in time to deflect the beam with a ki-enhanced forearm. The force sent him skidding, his boots carving trenches in the dirt. "Not this time, Frieza," he panted. The tyrant's tail lashed. Persistent pests. Meanwhile, Vegeta found himself cornered by 3 cyborgs, their systems syncing to predict his moves. He gritted his teeth. Annoying. A sudden volley of ki blasts scattered the machines. Broly had noticed his struggle. "I don't need your help," Vegeta spat, but Broly simply grunted. "Then stop slowing me down." The battlefield became a storm of colliding energies. Goku and Broly fought back to back, their Saiyan instincts sinking in a deadly dance. Goku feinted left, drawing a cyborg's attack, while Broly crushed it from above with a meteoric elbow drop. But Frieza wasn't idle. Enough of this farce. He raised both hands, a swirling sphere of destruction forming, a planet-burst attack. The ground quaked as the energy swelled, threatening to obliterate everything. Just as despair crept in, a familiar voice cut through the noise. "Need a hand?" Piccolo and Gohan landed beside them, their auras flaring. "Took you long enough," Vegeta muttered, but relief flickered in his eyes. Gohan nodded at Broly. "We heard what happened. We're with you." Piccolo charged a special beam cannon, its piercing light aimed at Frieza. "Let's end this." Frieza's confidence wavered. His plan was crumbling, Broly had turned, his army was failing, and now reinforcements had arrived. Snarling, he unleashed the planet burst. The blast hurtled toward them, but Goku and Broly acted as one. Channeling their power, they fired a combined Kamehameha and eraser cannon, the beams intertwining into a colossal spiral. The attacks collided, the shockwave flattening mountains. As the dust settled, Frieza was gone, retreated, but not defeated. The cyborgs lay in ruins. Goku exhaled, rubbing his sore shoulder. That was close. Broly stared at his hands, as if seeing them for the first time.
I didn't lose control.
Vegeta crossed his arms. "Don't get cocky. Frieza won't give up." Gohan frowned. "And those cyborgs? They weren't just Frieza's tech. Someone else is pulling strings." A chilling laugh echoed from the shadows. "Clever boy." A figure emerged, Dr. Garo's android, a relic of the past, rebuilt and enhanced. "You destroyed my prototypes, but the real test begins now." His eyes glowed ominously. The team tensed. The stakes had just gotten higher. The air on planet Vampa was thick with tension as Goku, Vegeta, and Broly stood side by side, their eyes locked on Frieza's hovering form. The tyrant's smirk was infuriating, his tail flicking lazily as he surveyed the trio. "How touching," Frieza sneered, "the legendary Super Saiyans, united against little old me. But do you really think this ragtag team can stop what's coming?" Goku clenched his fists, sensing something sinister beneath Frieza's taunts. "What are you planning, Frieza? You already lost once, you really want to go through that again?" Frieza's laughter echoed across the barren landscape. "Oh, Kakarot, you always were naive. This isn't about revenge, it's about evolution." Before anyone could react, Frieza raised a hand, and a surge of dark energy erupted from his palm, engulfing the sky. The ground trembled as a massive, shadowy rift tore open above them, revealing a swirling vortex of unnatural power. Vegeta's eyes widened. "What the hell is that?" Broly growled, his muscles tensing as primal fear flickered in his eyes. Frieza's voice dripped with malice. "A gift from the gods, or rather, what's left of them." From the rift, a monstrous figure emerged, its form shifting between solid and ethereal, its eyes burning with an otherworldly hunger. Goku's breath caught. "That's a demon?" Frieza's grin widened. "Meet Moro's successor, the Devourer of Worlds. And thanks to your little squabbles across the universe, it's grown stronger than even I anticipated." Vegeta snarled. "You unleashed this thing? You're even stupider than I thought." Frieza shrugged. "Desperate times. Besides, it's not like you'll live long enough to judge me." The Devourer let out a deafening roar, and in an instant, it lunged, its clawed hand swiping toward Broly. The berserker barely dodged, but the force of the attack sent shockwaves ripping through the earth, throwing Goku and Vegeta off balance. Gritting his teeth, Goku powered up to Super Saiyan Blue, his aura flaring. "We gotta take this thing down fast." Vegeta nodded, his own energy surging. Easier said than done. Broly, still unsteady, growled as he forced his body into its full power state, green energy crackling around him. The three Scions charged, their fists and ki blasts colliding with the Devourer in a blinding explosion of light and sound. But the creature barely flinched. Instead, it absorbed their energy, its form growing larger, more grotesque. Goku's heart pounded. "It's feeding off us." Frieza hovered above the chaos, his laughter ringing in their ears. "Oh, this is priceless." The mighty Scions, rendered helpless. Vegeta's mind raced. If brute force wasn't working, they needed a new strategy. He glanced at Broly, whose raw power was the wild card. "Broly, can you control it? Focus your energy inward, don't let it drain you." Broly's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but he gave a sharp nod. Goku caught on. "Right. We hit it together, all at once, no hesitation." As the Devourer prepared another devastating strike, the trio synchronized their attacks. Goku and Vegeta unleashed a dual Kamehameha Gallic gun, while Broly channeled his rage into a single, earth-shattering punch. The combined force tore through the creature, sending it reeling, but it wasn't enough. The Devourer regenerated instantly, its form twisting into something even more terrifying. Frieza's smirk faltered for the first time. Impossible. Then came the twist, the creature's eyes locked onto Frieza. With a speed that defied logic, it lunged at him, its maw gaping wide. Frieza barely had time to scream before the Devourer clamped down on his arm, tearing it clean off. The tyrant howled in agony, his blood staining the air. No. This wasn't part of the deal. Goku's stomach dropped. "It's turning on him." Vegeta's voice was grim. "It's turning on everything." The Devourer, now surging with Frieza's stolen energy, began to mutate, its body pulsating with unstable power. The rift above widened, threatening to consume the planet. Broly, breathing heavily, looked at Goku with something akin to desperation. "We can't win like this." Goku's mind raced. There was only one option left, one he'd hoped to avoid. "Vegeta. We gotta fuse." Vegeta's jaw tightened. "TCH. I was hoping you wouldn't say that." As the Devourer prepared to finish Frieza off, Goku and Vegeta performed the fusion dance, their bodies merging in a flash of light. Gogeta emerged, his presence radiating overwhelming power. Broly stepped back, awed. Frieza, clutching his bleeding stump, coughed out a laugh. "About time." Gogeta's voice was calm but deadly. "Let's end this." The final battle erupted with apocalyptic force. Gogeta's speed and precision were unmatched, his blows landing with surgical precision. But the Devourer adapted, countering with terrifying efficiency. The ground split beneath them, the sky itself seeming to fracture. Broly, realizing his role, unleashed a barrage of ki blasts to distract the creature, buying Gogeta an opening. With a roar, Gogeta summoned a Stardust Breaker, the attack piercing the Devourer's core. For a moment, silence fell. Then the creature exploded, but not before its dying scream echoed across the universe, a warning of something far worse to come. The rift collapsed, leaving behind a scarred battlefield. Gogeta defused, Goku and Vegeta collapsing to their knees, exhausted. Frieza, barely conscious, smirked weakly. "Well. That was fun." Broly stared at the horizon, his voice quiet. "This isn't over." Goku met his gaze, a grim understanding passing between them. The real fight was just beginning. The battlefield trembled as Frieza's forces clashed with the Z fighters, the air thick with ki blasts and the echoes of desperate shouts. Frieza hovered above the chaos, his golden form gleaming with malice, his tail flicking in irritation. "Pathetic," he sneered, watching as his soldiers fell one by one. "I should have known not to rely on weaklings." His crimson eyes shifted toward Goku and Vegeta, locked in combat with his elite warriors. Then, his gaze settled on Broly, who stood at the edge of the fight, his massive frame tense with uncertainty. Goku wiped sweat from his brow, his blue aura flickering as he parried a barrage of energy attacks. "Vegeta, we need to end this fast," he shouted. Vegeta grunted, dodging a razor-sharp tail strike from an alien warrior. "TCH. I don't need you to tell me that," he snapped, then lunged forward, his fist slamming into the enemy's gut with a shockwave of power. The warrior crumpled, but more surged forward. Broly's fists clenched as he watched the battle unfold. His breathing was heavy, his mind torn between instinct and reason. He had been Frieza's pawn once, used for destruction. But now, something stirred within him. A memory of his father's voice, "You are not a monster." His muscles tensed, his green aura flaring uncontrollably. Then, with a roar, he launched himself into the fray. Frieza's smirk faltered as Broly barreled through his soldiers like a raging storm. "What is this?" he hissed. Broly's fist connected with a warrior's jaw, sending him flying into a crater. Another attacker fired a point-blank energy blast, but Broly swatted it aside with a backhand, the explosion barely phasing him. His power was raw, untamed, but there was a focused fury in his movements now. Goku's eyes widened. "Broly's helping us." Vegeta scoffed, though his expression was calculating. "Don't get distracted. Frieza's the real threat." As if on cue, Frieza's voice cut through the din. "Enough of this farce." His hands glowed with a sinister purple energy. "Die!" A colossal death beam erupted toward them. Goku and Vegeta barely dodged, the beam carving a molten trench through the earth. Broly wasn't as quick, the blast grazed his shoulder, searing his flesh. He growled, his pain only fueling his rage. His power surged, his hair flickering between green and gold. Frieza's eyes narrowed. Interesting. But not enough. He vanished, reappearing behind Broly with a vicious tail whip that sent the giant crashing into a mountainside. Goku gritted his teeth. "We need to push past our limits, now." He crossed his arms, his body radiating blinding light as he ascended to Ultra Instinct. Vegeta smirked, his own aura erupting in a crimson blaze. "About time." Ultra Ego Vegeta cracked his knuckles. "Let's show him what true power looks like." The two scions blurred forward, their movements a symphony of precision and brutality. Goku weaved between Frieza's retaliatory strikes, his body moving on instinct, landing a devastating elbow to Frieza's ribs. Vegeta followed up with a crushing knee to the tyrant's spine, sending him skidding across the ground. Frieza coughed, his golden form flickering. "You insects." Before he could recover, Broly erupted from the rubble, his body now wreathed in a golden-green aura. His transformation was unstable, wild, but his power dwarfed even theirs. With a guttural roar, he charged, his fists a blur. Frieza barely blocked the first strike, but the second sent him spiraling into the sky. Broly pursued, his attacks relentless. Frieza's composure shattered. Enough. He unleashed a barrage of death balls, each one capable of leveling a city. Broly dodged the first few, but one clipped his side, the explosion engulfing him. Goku and Vegeta didn't hesitate, they shot upward, intercepting Frieza before he could finish Broly off. The battle reached its climax as the three warriors cornered Frieza. Goku's fist glowed with a Kamehameha point blank. Vegeta's palm burned with a final flash. Broly, battered but unbroken, gathered a colossal energy sphere between his hands. Frieza's eyes darted between them, his smirk returning. "You think this is over?" The world turned white as their attacks converged. The shockwave split the heavens, the ground beneath them vaporizing. When the smoke cleared, Frieza stood, barely. His golden form flickered out, leaving him in his weakened state. He coughed blood, his body trembling. "This isn't possible." Broly landed beside Goku and Vegeta, his breathing ragged but his resolve unshaken. Frieza's plan had failed. And for the first time, Broly wasn't alone. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The air crackled with energy as Frieza's smug grin faltered, his golden form flickering under the relentless assault. "Impossible." He snarled, his tail lashing in frustration. "You were nothing but insects before." But the tides had turned. Goku, battered but unbroken, wiped blood from his lip, his eyes burning with determination. Beside him, Broly roared, his emerald aura flaring wildly as raw power surged through his veins. The once unstoppable tyrant was now cornered, his plans crumbling before him. The final clash erupted in a storm of light and fury. Goku vanished, reappearing behind Frieza with a devastating kick that sent the tyrant spiraling into a mountainside. Rocks shattered as Frieza emerged, his face twisted in rage. "You'll pay for this," he screamed, charging a sphere of destruction between his palms. But before he could unleash it, Broly intercepted, his massive fist slamming into Frieza's gut with enough force to crack the earth beneath them. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the battlefield, dust and debris obscuring the carnage. Goku didn't let up. Drawing on every ounce of Ultra Instinct, his movements became a blur, dodging, striking, pushing Frieza to his absolute limit. Each punch carried the weight of years of struggle, of lives lost and worlds destroyed by the tyrant's cruelty. "This ends now," Goku growled, His voice edged with exhaustion and resolve. Frieza sneered, but for the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. He had underestimated them. He had underestimated Broly. The Saiyan Berserker, once a weapon of destruction, now fought with purpose. Memories of his father's manipulation, of years spent in isolation, fueled his rage, but this time, it was controlled. This time, it was his. With a guttural cry, Broly unleashed a colossal energy wave, the sheer force of it tearing through Frieza's defenses. The tyrant screamed as the blast consumed him, his body disintegrating under the overwhelming power. Silence fell. The dust settled. Goku collapsed to one knee, his body screaming in protest. Broly stood panting, his breathing ragged, his muscles trembling from exertion. They had done it. Frieza was gone. The aftermath was a mix of relief and reflection. Vegeta, watching from a distance, scoffed but nodded in grudging respect. "Took you long enough," he muttered, though there was no real bite to his words. Bulma's voice crackled over the comms, relief evident in her tone. "About time you wrapped things up. The planet's barely holding together." But the real change was in Broly. As the adrenaline faded, he looked at his hands, no longer tools of destruction, but of protection. Goku offered a tired smile. "You did good," he said simply. Broly hesitated, then nodded. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged. The universe would never be the same. Frieza's empire would crumble without its leader, leaving a power vacuum that would reshape galactic politics. But for now, as the sun set on the battlefield, there was peace. The fight was over. The future, unwritten. And for Goku and Broly, it was just the beginning.